A yearly thing I like to do on this channel is go over my year in playing stuff and pick a game I played each month to talk about that I think is super interesting and deserves a bit more attention. Very self-explanatory, though. A few caveats I'm going to give myself this year to make things more interesting, and they are as follows. No games I've been requested to Let's Play by developers, though if you are curious, my two favorite things I've been sent this year are Xenotown and The Senex Bird. I highly recommend both. No games made by friends, because that's kind of cheating, and no demos. So no Balatro, no Geno Kids, no Play Rough, no Little Kitty Big City, no Big Boy Box. God, I played a lot of demos this year, but yeah, let's get started. My January pick is Sonic Frontiers. The word I use to describe this game is refreshing. I like the Sonic games, although I haven't really followed them as of late, but some friends recommend I try this one out, and I ended up enjoying it way more than I thought I would. The open world design is new and interesting. I personally prefer stage-by-stage stuff for a series like this, but this was a neat and, fresh experience. It's one of those open worlds that doesn't feel too big either. The best ones tend to be more dense than sparse, and this one is a good example of that. It's cool to see Sonic attempting a more serious tone with its story again, too. The story was really fun to follow. I love the writing, the collecting was fun, the new characters were super interesting. Lots of people have already said tons about this game, so if you've seen a positive review of this, you've probably heard all this before, but I don't know, this one was a good time. My February pick is Minecraft Story Mode Season 2. This year I finished the biggest video essay I've ever created, a 3.5-hour video essay review about Minecraft Story Mode. It's an ambitious game with pretty mixed reception, which of course made it pretty up my alley. I liked it overall, personally, and I got so invested that I ended up buying the sequel to try out. It didn't really give me that wow factor the original did, although I respect it a lot because you can really tell this is one of those sequels where the devs took the criticisms they got from the original game to heart. Basically, my biggest issues with the first game were ironed out, all while delivering an engaging story in it with its own right. I can't say it's an easy recommend if you outright didn't like the original. It's not going to change your mind or anything, but if you got enjoyment out of it in spite of its flaws, this might have fixed some of those very issues. My March pick is Wario Land 3. I met someone last year who's a huge Wario fan, and they got me curious to try this one out. It was available on that Nintendo Online thing, so I gave it a shot. This game blew me away of how ambitious it is and how much stuff there is to collect. There's about 25 levels, which is kinda huge for a Game Boy game like this to me. Each with 4 different exits, making for a nice round 100, exits, paths you can go down. Each of a unique treasure at the end. I love jumping from stage to stage as I collected new stuff and seeing what I could uncover with the new powers or the unlocked paths you would uncover with the treasures you unlocked. It made this island feel like this big puzzle box you were slowly unraveling piece by piece. Between this and Wario Land 4, which I remember playing years ago and enjoying, this game got me pretty interested in the series, and it's definitely something I'll have to dive deeper into at some point. My April pick is Nintendogs plus Cats. By the way, you're going to notice a couple 3DS games on this list. This is going to sound random, but I might be the biggest Nintendogs fan you know. The original was just an important game to my childhood, and even to this day, there's still a lot I respect about it. The graphics, the presentation, the music, the text, seriously, it genuinely holds up. Never played the 3DS version, however, usually hearing it doesn't improve too much and is even missing a lot of minor things fans of the original enjoyed, and I 100% agree, but I still like it. Weirdly, I had the most fun playing this at work, basically taking my 3DS out during lunch breaks to feed my dogs and take them on walks and to tournaments. Then when I go back to work, I set it to that new pedometer feature, which was quite cool actually. It was a fun time waster game, and if anything, it got me wanting more from the series again. On a side note, this series would fit right at home on mobile devices. Nintendo, please make that happen. My May pick is Dragon Quest Monsters 2 Kobe and Tara's Marvelous Mysterious Key. It might be the longest name for a game I've ever played. This is a 3DS remake of a Game Boy Color game I owned as a kid that's basically a dual-release creature capture made to capitalize on Pokemon's success at the time. There are tons of these around this era, but this one is set in the Dragon Quest universe. It's actually pretty good and, dare I say, even holds up on its own merits pretty well. This remake was Japan only for years though, which is why I had to play a fan translation, and I enjoyed it quite a bit. The game's basically about what I expected. It fleshed out a lot about the locations, the story, the world building, to create something admittedly pretty ambitious. It almost doesn't feel like the same game anymore, yet at the same time, feels like a beautiful love letter to it. My June pick is Dicey Dungeons. Something I learned about myself this year is that I have a lot of respect in and tend to be pretty drawn towards games that respect your time. For all intents and purposes, this means that I've mostly cut out live service games and roguelikes out of my life. You know, games that kind of expect hundreds of hours from you. Anyway, a roguelike I absolutely loved this year was Dicey Dungeons. I think the biggest draw of this game to me was that it played almost like a core RPG with a high skill ceiling, but streamlined to make it pretty fast-paced and snappy in spite of being turn-based. The ways equipment synergize with each other makes a limitless fun potential to me, especially with all the different classes too, which all play wildly different without feeling gimmicky or like they were all put in just for the sake of padding. It's kind of impressive how they pulled this off. My July pick is Rayman Redemption. I got mixed feelings on the original Rayman. On one hand, it's a massively designed platformer with unique movement that lends itself to creative level design while still allowing for players to be expressive. Its visual design, animation, and music is gorgeous and makes it one of the best looking games on the platform that still holds up to this day. On the other hand though, it is way too hard for its own good, to a point where whenever I do play the game nowadays, I always do so with an infinite lives cheat. It brings the difficulty to something more akin to a tough-as-nails indie platformer that, honest to God, is quite enjoyable, but the fact that I have to do that in the first place to have fun with this game at all really goes to show just how bullshit it can be. For those of you with that sentiment, Redemption is a fan remake of the game that aims to rebalance everything into something hard but more fair, all while adding its own extra content that you'd see in more modern remakes of games of this sort, such as costumes, bonus challenges, and even brand new levels, as well as an entirely new world, and enough revisions to the final world that it might as well be a new world in and of itself as well. It's cool to see a love letter like this that overall makes the game more accessible and easier to get into. I doubt this would ever happen, but I would be ecstatic to see something like this adopted by Ubisoft and turned into an official remake with the help from the original creator. It's happened with fan works like this before, and it would be super cool to see something like that here. My August pick is Burger Shop 2. I forgot what the occasion was, but I received this game from a friend a couple years back and haven't tried it until now. It's a food management game where you're given this giant conveyor belt with items on them, and you have to assemble the orders of people who appear at the bottom of the screen. It's a very simple premise, but the game keeps things fresh and engaging by introducing tons of new ingredients to ramp up difficulty over time, and new customer types who ask for different items or have some stipulations around how patient they are. It is very fast-paced, quite a bit more so than most cooking sims I've played even, making for a unique experience that's fun to play and master. My September pick is evgn Adventures. James Rolfe is a legacy YouTuber, having been on the platform since 2006 and mostly known for his show The Angry Video Game Nerd, where he hyperbolically reviews bad video games as this exaggerated asshole of a nerd character. It's very internet. This is a tie-in game based on this show that takes you on an adventure through a terrible game he would review, made up of stages based on some of his most popular episodes. If you grew up with this guy like I did, there's plenty of references and nods to find and appreciate in this, on top of being a pretty good game in its own right. As a fan of this guy, it was a fun time. Heck, I like it enough that I can even recommend it to folks who don't follow the series, though just be ready for a lot of vulgarity and grossness. This game does have a sequel too, which I also tried, and I did enjoy it, but not as much as the original. My October pick is PC Building Simulator. I'm not a big simulator guy, though this is one that hooked me when I tried it earlier this year. I've always held this belief that a sign of a good simulator game is when it can teach you a thing or two about the source material, and that definitely checks out here. It's a game where you play as a PC repairman and are given tasks to complete, from fixing computers to building them from scratch within a budget, to even fidgeting around with overclocking and custom water cooling. And the coolest thing about this game is that it aims to be realistic about all of this. Parts interact with each other how they would true to life, up to and including having similar compatibilities and physical space limitations. This game even features many real-life brands with real-life computer parts to really hammer this home. As a testament to this, sometimes when I did play this game, it was in the presence of a good buddy who is very knowledgeable in this sort of PC tech. I don't think he's ever played this game, but he still gave me a lot of advice when I was playing from his real-world knowledge that just worked perfectly and translated one-to-one. Even some minor things the game doesn't tutorialize. Thanks a lot, by the way, you know who you are. But yeah, PC Builder is a very fun and educational experience. My November pick is Small Saga. This indie RPG was my most anticipated game of the year. The premise alone sold me really hard. I love this aesthetic of rodents in their own medieval society where humans and larger animals are seen as these big threats or even gods. How they treat each other, how they view the world around them. It's always a fun design space to explore. I love the visual style of this game. The overworlds look like something out of Light Crusader, while the battles look like something akin to Golden Sun. So it's basically something that feels kind of tailor-made for me. My only real issue with the game is that I felt the battles were way too easy. This is one of the easiest RPGs I've played in a very long time, and it doesn't really fit how like desperate and how like dark the story can get sometimes. I don't know. I feel like with a game with stakes like this, I kind of prefer the battles to be harder. I don't know. I wish there was like a hard mode or something, basically, but it's amazing otherwise. My December pick... Okay, I had a lot I wanted to talk about for December. I wanted to talk about Crash Bandicoot: A Huge Adventure, because I know a friend who's gotten me into the Crash Bandicoot series. Now I'm just playing a bunch of them back-to-back and enjoying them quite a bit. I want to talk about Braid, which is this, like, really legacy indie I've always heard about, saw playthroughs, but never tried myself, and I was kind of blown away by how much it kind of affected me. But I think ultimately I chose a game that I tried that I didn't like the most out of everything I played, but I think it'd be the most interesting to talk about. Balan Wonderworld. Dude, people just don't want to have fun these days. I can get how it's not for everyone, but I am blown away by the toxicity I've seen surrounding this game, and like, none of it is warranted. Balan Wonderworld is an adorable game that just wants to do its own thing. It plays very differently from most platformers I've ever seen, yet the farther I got into it, the more I felt I understood what it was going for. There's a lot you gotta meet halfway with this game, and I'm not saying that because, like, it's bad and you gotta, like, lower your expectations. I mean that as in it just does a lot different you have to get used to, and kind of have to, like, ease into a little bit to get the most out of it. I feel like your enjoyment is going to directly scale with how much you're willing to go with the flow with it. It's artistically incredible, too. The character designs and how its story was presented, like these big cutscenes, they were enchanting to see, and it was always fun to see more of them. The level design and puzzles are fun, too. Every level caught me by surprise in a good way and in a different way, and it's an experience that's unpredictable, yet very comfortable and cozy. This is a very fun game to play with friends around, and yeah, it was a great time to end off the year. But yeah, those are my 12 picks for cool games I played in 2023. These little wrap-up videos are always fun to put together. Well, regardless though, I'd like to give a shout out to my Patreon supporters, Royal Blot, Sean, Great Wolf, and Firestriker. Feel free to share the video or post it around, give it a like, that typical stuff. It does help engagement with these larger videos, and I will see you folks later. Thanks for watching.